Welcome back to the Layman's Law School. Today we are going to talk about...
For the final time.
We're going to talk about our reactions and who was right with the Karen Reed verdict and a couple other things that we, some of the aftermath of the trial that I think people probably have questions about, whether she could be retried again or a civil suit that might arise. So a couple different things we're going to talk about, and we hope you stick around to check it out.
And we all see that the table is one short. We don't know what he does with his time, but he might be out celebrating the Karen Reed acquittal of 99% of the charges.
Or he could be, maybe he might be a little sad because this is one of our final
I'm
Karen Reed
sad
episodes
because
for the time being.
You know, one of the highlights of my week is to see Chase and drink the Bud Light, honestly. I mean, I get a little comfort in his discomfort. I'll be honest with that.
The positive thing
As he
about
calls it, the unfortunate.
Yeah,
the positive thing about it, read it, that means there's one more Bud Light for you.
That's right.
There you go. There you go.
So it's Friday.
Wow, these are really cold.
I put them on ice for y'all today.
We have to thank a special person. She knows who she is for keeping these cold.
I did not have them on ice. I had them on room temperature, which that was kind of part of the plan, especially with Chase. But since Chase isn't here, we traded them for some colder ones. I wouldn't do that to y'all. So cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, sorry, I'm behind. Okay, sorry.
Happy Friday.
Cheers.
Happy Friday.
Cheers.
Good week.
And welcome back to me from vacation. Did y'all miss me?
Yep.
I missed you a lot.
I had a lot
I
of
didn't think
problems.
about you guys at all.
Me and Reed had an attorney's meeting yesterday, which Lindsay is usually involved in. It's by Zoom because we're in different offices and things. And it was me and Reed.
Yep.
I almost jumped on because we were in the car. And unfortunately, right about that same time, my child decided to get motion sickness in the car. And I won't get into detail, but there were goldfish that came
You have
back
a job
up.
to do.
And it was,
You have a job to do.
I embrace solutions, not excuses.
the solution was pull over right now at the Dollar General parking lot and go buy some paper towels and get her out of the, it was, anyway, different kind of podcast.
Yeah,
We'll talk about
summer work weeks are always a little different,
Yes,
especially
for sure.
all of us with kids and everything else. So, totally understand that. But
Yep.
so what we got going on today, Lens?
Well, first, I think we should talk about, we made predictions on what each of us thought that the verdict was going to be. And it's no surprise to me, but the power corner over here.
That's us.
We correctly predicted.
I feel like I correctly predicted it too. When I changed it halfway through when I said, well, she's already admitted to the DUI. So I feel like, that was... So either way,
or OUI as they call it up there.
Call it. Don't
Operating
kill us
under the
in the
influence.
comments. We've already talked about it. We're going to use different acronyms because we're from Georgia.
Yeah, it's DUI.
In Georgia, it's driving under the influence, DUI. In other states, it's operating under the influence. In some states, it's driving while intoxicated.
Do you think that's because, like, up there where there's, like, snow more often, like, you could be operating a snowplow under the influence and get in trouble?
It could be.
So they had to change it?
Let me tell you, based on all the evidence that we saw and the video stuff,
I know where this is going.
I didn't know that it was even against the law up there for people to drink, 8 to 15 drinks and just get in the car and drive home.
Yeah.
I thought it was
or take them with you. That was also the right. Just take it with you. Which John often did,
when I'm not driving, I'll be the first to tell you that on occasion, I will take a to-go drink with me.
Sure.
If they're gracious enough to offer that to me, I'll take a little road soda with me.
Yourself on YouTube.
Road soda.
But these people were just, all of them were just smashed. Let's just be honest, cruising around.
People get right in Canton.
They were having a good time.
Can't do it.
And I do love the stereotypes of the Southern people just driving around on the tractors drunk. Well, maybe the Northern people have driving around drunk on their snowmobiles. I don't know. Or snowplows, because from what I could tell that was happening at the waterfall, there was some drinking going on.
The waterfall just sounds like a bar where some shit goes down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Honestly.
For sure.
I feel so at one point or another, this episode's going to be off the rails already, I can tell. But once upon a time, I don't know if y'all ever knew this, but I lived in upstate New York for a short period.
I did not know.
And there was
I can hear it.
Right? There was a bar up there called the Saloon. And I feel like that is 100% like the waterfall. Just a good old place to be and get in some trouble,
Yep.
But anyway. So So let's talk about the number one question I feel like most people would have. So we're after the second trial, she's been acquitted of these charges. Can she be retried ever again for criminal? For
Possible,
this criminal?
but not probable.
Okay.
The answer to your question is absolutely yes. Can she be charged again criminally? You didn't say for what.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes.
For this particular crime, for
specific.
the murder of John O'Keefe.
Yes, there you go. Sean, go ahead.
No, obviously everybody's heard about double jeopardy. We've talked about it before. Double jeopardy precludes you from being tried twice for the same crime by the same sovereign. So
that's key.
The Commonwealth could never retry her again for the murder or manslaughter or whatever they wanted to call it of John O'Keefe. The only option really would be, if she was ever to be retried criminally, would be some type of a federal murder type charge. And I can tell you, in my experience, the federal government likes their cases to be wrapped up with a bow on them, with no defenses and evidence that is.
So you're saying there ain't even enough evidence in this that the federal would be like, nah, y'all.
Absolutely not.
Well, I say, I mean, we've talked about it on the show before, Sean, but we've had cases or people come in that have said, you know, they just had a question. They didn't have a case yet, and they got pulled over and they had drugs in the car, and the police officer let them go. And me and John, I mean, that's a telltale sign. An attorney knows that's because the federal government is about to destroy you.
Oh, yeah.
That's what that means. They're not going to do it that day.
Local law enforcement either let you go because they're hoping that you're going to work and provide information to them.
Yeah.
And then they're going to not prosecute you. If you don't, they're just going to take out the warrants and you get picked up sometime later.
Sure.
Or it's a bigger picture type issue, like Reed is alluding to, and they've just got the information and they're going to present it to a federal grand jury, and you're going to get a call from United States Marshal saying that you've got court this day and you need to turn yourself in that morning.
Yep. I'll put it this way. I mean, if the federal government had charged or would charge Karen Reed, it would have been with all the evidence that has come out through all this stuff already in a booklet. That's when they would have charged. Like their work is all done up front.
Right.
Where the state can't really do that. You really can't. But they can kind of pick and choose what to do and where they want to go. But if you're, as Sean said, there's not a lot of defenses generally when you're charged federally.
Okay.
Well, and it's different because we have two private citizens, Officer John O'Keefe as well as Karen Reed. In cases, most recently in the news, in cases that we've seen where a person may have been acquitted of a state crime of murder or something like that, and the feds then pursued it, those were usually officer-involved things where a police officer, like the Ahmaud Arbery type case.
Yeah, he's involved with his job, doing his job.
Correct. And they're not going after him for murder. They're going after him for violation of civil rights, things like that are federal type crimes.
Right.
So, I mean, it happens on occasion.
There's almost a 0% chance.
I wouldn't say it's rare, but in Karen Reed's case, yes, I don't think the federal government wants to touch this with a 10-foot pole.
No, and I do think there could be some actions going the other way here. I definitely think
the civil side.
Well, you could even have some criminal stuff, but that's kind of far-fetched. But there's definitely going to be a look from the federal government into the actions of the judge, the action of the prosecutor,
the police department.
This isn't over in regards to that by a long stretch of the imagination. And just, this is a quick little thing that we talked about at the Georgia Trial Lawyers Association meeting yesterday. How something very small that is let in or out of a jury's eyes can just change your entire case. Mm-hmm. Essentially, a friend of ours had tried a case and he won the case, but one piece of evidence was said to be left out, and the judge ruled it out. Just like in this case about how they couldn't see the garage, couldn't see in the garage. That was left out. Well, our friend won the case, but he talked to the jurors afterwards and told them that piece of evidence, because the case is over, and they were so mad they wanted to go back in and do it again and give more money, because if they'd have known that piece of evidence, they would have tripled what they gave. So that one, even a tiny piece of evidence like that can change the entirety of the case. So this case, I think the Fed's going to look at why some of these things were kicked out, and is that appropriate?
Sure.
What do you think?
I don't think the federal government's going to look at anything other than corruption.
Well, that's what I mean. Yes,
on behalf of.
That's what I'm saying. Why are these things? There's so much that was left out that you go, it's something else at play. It just doesn't. It's strange.
And the main thing is, though, especially when you talk about the federal government, federal law enforcement, federal resources, United States Attorney's Office, is it's so policy driven as well that they might not look at it at all, because it has to do with, the administration, which means the president, the head of the United States Department of Justice, comes up with a plan. These are the 4 things that we're going to deal with.
That's true. Yep.
Drugs, guns, terrorism, so and so. And if you're, running a small sports betting site, you have no possibility, basically, of getting prosecuted federally during those
at least this
2
time
or 4
period.
years during this time period, because that's not their focus. That's not what they're going to do. But if you're within that realm of whatever they say the priority is, they're going to be pulling cases left and right. If it's public corruption, they'll be looking at, law enforcement tactics and what they've done in this investigation, whether there was a cover up, the judge, if there's some type of judicial, problems or things that she has done, well, then why did she do them? Yeah. Obviously, we saw a lot of the trial, and from what we saw of the 2 trials, we felt like
Auntie Bev got some stuff she needs to answer
Auntie
for.
Bev is way more than just prosecution friendly.
Right.
Sometimes she seemed like she had animosity towards Karen Reed and her lawyers.
And I agree, Sean, when you're talking about the feds. But why I think they're going to look into it is one of the things that they pride themselves on, and one of the things that they really, really make sure of is when they start to see a downfall in the trust and faith in the judicial system like this, they're going to at least look at why something happened, because this is too big. It's been too public.
Oh my gosh.
And there's way too many people that say, this is our government now. This is our judicial system. This is what happens. What if she didn't have money? Then she would have been convicted, obviously. And so when you start to have that downfall of the faith, I think the federal government's going to have to come in and at least do something. I think they're going to.
Well, also the fact is, too, he was a police officer and he wasn't given a proper investigation.
Right.
That is worrisome to me. Like that your own, he wasn't part of the Canton police force, right? He was a Boston police officer. But so that's aggravating to me. And it should be scary that even a cop did not receive the proper procedures and investigation that he should have. And now his murder may never be solved.
And we're going to talk about it.
Really police work.
Right. And he probably won't be solved, honestly, because once all this stuff has happened, like, you can't unring a bell. Sean, you know it better than anybody when you were doing investigating and doing criminal work and all that. It's like, once this stuff kind of has already happened and already done, like, you can't go back and look at the house. You can't go back and find the dog. You can't go back. I mean,
where is
how
that
do you
dog?
get evidence after it's already gone?
Whatever happened to the dog?
I mean, and the most important thing, I think, in my mind is that absent a really, really big piece of evidence or testimony, somebody absolutely flipping. I was there.
Right.
This is what happened.
Yes.
Or maybe 2 people flipping. There's no way that the Commonwealth
I know. I say it all the time.
Ever puts forward charges against anyone for the murder of John O'Keefe, because they've spent 2, 3, 4 years, however long it's been,
millions of dollars.
And there's transcripts of everything, and they're saying Karen Reed killed this man. Karen Reed ran into him with a car, left him there to die in a snow or in a front yard in a snowdrift, whatever. And it's hard to dial that back.
Yep.
Unless you have obviously if we ended up and had a cell phone video that somebody was recording where somebody inside the Albert residence killed him,
right?
That's a different story type thing. Yeah. And you can say, this is, proof beyond a reasonable doubt that this occurred. And we were wrong in the past. Yeah. But other than that, just speculation or oh, yeah, we're going to go after so-and-so, or we're going to go after so-and-so because the evidence could point to this person.
Right.
You can't overcome the fact you just spent 4 years.
Sean, you're the defense attorney, right? All right. And not anymore, but you used to do it. So I'm the state, and I charge somebody new. I'm the Commonwealth. I'm sorry, and I charge somebody new for the same crime. What's the first thing you're gonna do?
I'm gonna order copies of all the transcripts from the trial, from the 2 trials. And I'm gonna start getting all the video of the prosecutors, the special prosecutor appointed, everyone who said Karen Reed did this,
right, without any doubt.
And absent them having a video of my client actually
committing the crime,
killing Officer John O'Keefe, how could you not say that there's reasonable doubt?
Right.
If for 4 years they believed that Karen Reed did it, there would have had to been a substantial change in circumstances, piece of evidence, new evidence to overcome the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yep. And that's what we come back. I mean, that's what your question, it's like, that is the tragedy in all of it. Is like, there is never going to be any kind of resolution to this.
So we don't normally speculate or talk about it. We talk about the conspiracies off camera, but we don't usually bring it into this podcast because the podcast is focused on
the law
breaking down the law side and explaining things that may happen that you don't always understand. And so we're not always trying to break the news or feed into the conspiracies. We do that at lunch before this. Right. But Bo had an interesting, Bo is my husband, and he's an avid fan of the podcast. And so he has been, whether he liked it or not at the beginning, has had to watch a lot of Karen Reed videos in preparation and different things. And so last night, and he's never really spoken up until last night. We were watching the most recent episode of our podcast, and he said, well, I'll tell you what I think happened. And I was like, oh, tell me, because he's never really,
Bo's theory.
I was like, he's been thinking about this for a while. And his theory is that John O'Keefe did indeed go in the house. He said he thinks that what happened is that one, maybe 2 people then brought him back outside the house, as in we need to take this outside kind of situation, and killed him, beat him, whatever, and left him there. And he said the problem is that the people inside the house might think oh, we don't really know what happened, so we're going to keep our mouth shut because we didn't actually see it. We didn't witness it. But so it's quite possible that the people inside the house don't know what really happened to John, but they know probably. So then they all kind of came together. So we need to say Karen did it because, so they're all trying to cover for each other without actually knowing the truth.
Listen, we're not getting into
I know we're not getting into that.
We're going to, there's so many theories out there.
I know, but my point was to what y'all were kind of talking about is that, again, those 1 or 2 people would have to slip up one night at the bar and be like, we killed motherfucker. Right? That's what would have to happen.
And even then, you could say,
right?
You could get it in, but it's still going to be, I was drinking. I meant that we killed him because
type of thing.
We didn't take care of him. It's going to have to be, like Sean said, just a complete flip. It's not going to be somebody that just slips up and accidentally says something. Because it's got to be, I had a change of heart. This is what happened. I lied.
Like a confession.
A complete confession. That's
like turn yourself in kind of situation.
That's only way I can see it being having any kind of conviction with it.
Well, and another thing you have to think about, I don't know how it operates in the Commonwealth, but all this stuff costs money.
Yeah.
A hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
And especially in a city, which I assume that the Commonwealth, or the Commonwealth is a state, but it's happened in a city. That's the jurisdiction, Canton, that this is happening in. There's an amount of resources that are put forward every year to prosecute cases. And when you go through not 1, but 2 cases like this, that take weeks and weeks, and You immediately eliminate your entire year's budget and maybe budget for many, many years. You start getting some pushback from the people that run the budget, county commissioners, city commissioners, whatever the case may be, that, you've already spent $4 million on this case. And we only had, $400,000 to spend every year type thing. So you wanting to march forward as the, I don't know whether or not the district attorneys or the prosecutors there are elected, appointed, whatever the case may be.
No, the judges are appointed.
Judges are appointed. Yeah. But you're going to start getting some heavy scrutiny and some people leaning on your shoulders saying, put this thing to bed. We can't afford to do this, which is the unfortunate thing, because we will never know, whether or not Karen Reed, this was an accidental death. Karen Reed backed into him, didn't know it, and left him there. Whether or not something happened in the Albert home and he was actually murdered. Yeah. Obviously, we know something happened.
Yeah. Well,
I tend to think that something happened and a dog was somewhat involved in it, which somebody probably knew about. Yeah. So it's just like, what happened?
It could be as simple as a dog attacking him, knocking him backwards. He hits his head the wrong way and he's dead. And they're like, oh, got to get him out of the house.
Absolutely.
I mean, that seems to me like that would be the most idiotic yet commonplace thing that could happen. Yeah. That, and all these other things are crazy. But the sad thing
is why would anybody go through this much trouble to cover up something like that?
Yeah.
Because it's not a criminal act. No one's going to lose their job over it.
Yeah.
I mean, if that happened at my house, first of all, I'm going to call my wife who rents construction equipment and say, need an excavator.
Yeah.
Because, just like the Albert's dog, my dog's going to be gone, but I'll be able to tell people where it's at.
Yeah,
It's in the backyard, and it's about 6 feet deep. I'm not going to be worried about being charged criminally. I mean, maybe with some type of animal control citation or something.
Yeah.
No, you did. Yeah, you did.
But it's going to be a civil matter. Right. I'm going to say, I'm sorry this happened to you. You should go contact an attorney.
Yeah.
I've got insurance. That's what my insurance is for. Your attorney will contact my insurance company. They'll start working it out.
Yeah.
One other thing, Sean, I want to talk about is you're talking about how if they're going to charge somebody and how much money it costs and all that stuff. And it kind of leads me into something I wanted to talk about. And it's that this has a ripple effect with all the cases in the Commonwealth. And that, let's say it happens here in Augusta, Georgia, and it takes that much time. It's not just, like you said, it's not just a week. It's all hands on deck in that whole office for multiple weeks and weeks on end to get this stuff ready. So what does that mean? That means all the other people that are charged with cases, they might be guilty, they might not, but their cases aren't coming up. That means it's getting back. The calendar's getting older. People are having to sit and wait in jail, waiting their turn.
Absolutely.
And no judge wants that. I can guarantee you. If you go to any calendar call, they're saying, Mr. Sanders, why isn't this moving? Mr. Schmerzlak, why isn't this moving? They want their calendar clean. Yeah. And so that's going to back it up. And to me, as a prosecutor's son, I was very disappointed in the entire situation because the prosecutor in this case got so worried and caused all this other things that happened because of it, the butterfly effect. But he essentially caused it because he got too obsessed with winning and not doing what was right or not following what the law is. And he got caught with his pants down a couple times on just not telling the truth. And Sean, if you lose credibility, you're toast. And you cannot get obsessed with, sometimes your case is not a winner and you have to try the case, but you try the facts as they are, not as how you want them to be. So
I'm going to ask you this. So I just saw this the other day where Hank Brennan he made a statement about the verdict. And in that statement, he said he was disappointed in the verdict, which is fine to say, but went on to say that there's only one person who's responsible for the death of Officer John O'Keefe, and that is Karen Reed. And so very blatantly, sort of strong-armed his opinion out there again. To me, when I was like, bro, what? It came off very,
Attorneys are competitive people.
True,
right?
but
Trial lawyers.
But
I'm telling you, that's why
by me
happening.
thinking like that, a prosecutor he shouldn't have said that.
No.
He should have just no. Why couldn't you just say no comment?
Well,
like,
and the reason
we
for
know you're
it, though,
disappointed
is
because you didn't win.
Trial lawyers are competitive, and he got too obsessed with the game and not why you're supposed to be doing your job. And even after the fact, he's a bad loser. It's like, I'm still right. You got to look at the evidence, man. You got like it doesn't mean you're a bad lawyer if you lose a case. If you ever have any lawyer that says I've never lost a case, they're a liar or they're a bad lawyer. Because there's cases you can win. There's cases I don't care if you're the best lawyer in the world or ever existed. There's some cases you're not going to win. And this attorney or this prosecutor wanted to win so bad he was willing to lie, cheat, and steal for it. And you know, and it just makes everything look bad to me.
Going back to what you said, Reed, about a prosecutor's duty, and a prosecutor's duty is to seek justice for victims,
absolutely,
for everybody, for the community, for society, and when a prosecutor's, in my mind, I prosecuted for several years and was a police officer and investigator for numerous years before I ever went to law school, is you have a duty to not pursue a case that you don't believe you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And when you have a case that has already been presented to a jury and those 12 jurors were hung and couldn't come to a unanimous decision, we got one tick.
Right.
Yeah.
We could not prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna try it again. And you're gonna present all your evidence the way that you want to, however you can, within the judge's guidelines, and you get a not guilty verdict. It's time to shut the up.
Yeah. I agree.
Period.
I agree.
Because your duty is, it's already been proven to you twice that you could not prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So whether Karen Reed hit him or not, your duty as a prosecutor is to only proceed with cases that under our American legal justice system, criminally, when we're depriving somebody of their liberty, that we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
And it's been proven to you
that you can't. And then, absolutely, it's inappropriate for you to come out and make a statement that says that, still lays blame on this person that was acquitted.
He's just so caught up in it.
So basically, you're telling the 12 jurors who are members of your community that you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You didn't believe my case, and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're wrong. Karen Reed did it. It's
class. It's so unclassy.
It's classless, and
it's against what we're all supposed
he's some
to
type
be.
of assigned special prosecutor,
Right.
so he has no blowback, for it.
Yeah.
That's very true. That is very
an
true.
elected or appointed prosecutor is going to have some weight. An elected prosecutor, the community is going to say, no, our community said, which up there maybe not because it's so split, type thing versus pro Karen Reed, anti Karen Reed, or like I said earlier, if it's a appointed type position, the government, the mayor, the city council, whoever is going to come to you and say, what are you doing?
What are we doing?
Shut up.
Shut up. And especially if you're an elected official, like you said, even if it's half and half, some of that half voted for you last time. Guess what? That half, maybe it's a quarter. I don't know.
Absolutely.
You can't do that. And you know that. But like you said, he didn't have that pushback. And that's a perfect way to put it. And so still in that, I want to win. I don't care about the things that fall around me. I'm in win, not justice. I'm in win mode. That's what he was in.
Well, speaking of people who also should maybe be keeping their mouth shut right now, I also saw a interview with the Alberts and the McCabe's, who were on, I don't know, the Today. They were on a couple. They've been on a couple different shows, but I think the Today Show, I think it was the Today.
I did see one.
Right?
I saw one little. I think it was 2020 clip. I saw it's only a minute long, and I was like, "This was terrible."
So to me, I'm like,
awful.
"What are y'all doing?"
They were bad
because one, there's a very large contingency of people that think you guys are responsible for it. So now you're going to parade yourselves on television and get this. So I wish I had the clip, and if we can find it, we'll show it. But, or I'll link it in the description. So Brian Albert is questioned by the interviewer to ask him, like, well, when there was a dead body and people in front of your yard, like, you know, police, all this kind of stuff, like, why didn't you go outside? His response was, well, I'm not a Canton police officer. I'm a Boston police officer. What?
Yeah.
It happens all the time here in Canton.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
I mean,
every morning I come out, I get the mail, I see a couple dead bodies.
I mean, what? So first of all, he sounds dumb just by in this because if you're a police officer and you believe in your duty of what you're supposed to do as a cop, which clearly up there's some they don't understand what their duty is or even respect it. But
well, to be fair, I'm sure a lot of them do. But the ones in this story seem to not.
That's reminiscent of a Corey Smith song, where he talks about this is not for all the people. The name of the song is
let's
That's
just
the Popo.
even take out the police officer side of it.
Anybody, right?
You wake up in the morning or in the middle of the night with screaming people on your property, and 3, 5, 8, how many police officers, cars in your front yard?
You've had people over the night before.
Yeah. I'm going out.
Who's out there?
Yeah.
We're gonna go outside and say, "Hey, y'all, all right? What's going on here? Something."
Who is that?
Like I said,
in my yard.
If I had a party,
even if you don't know, it's a dead body in your yard.
It might be your dog.
Well, I know this. If I had a party and I invited y'all over, and y'all came over and we hung out and had a good time, and something woke me up and there was police there at 5 o'clock in the morning after we had a late night hanging out, drinking, doing all that.
Yeah.
I'm going to be worried about y'all. I do care for y'all to some extent. So I'm going to want to go outside and make sure it's not y'all.
You're going to say, I could have swore Sean left at like 8:30 because he said he was going home and going to bed.
Yes, right. That's right. Exactly.
Sounds like a really proper time for you to leave somewhere. But yes, human nature would take you, curiosity would take you outside.
Just
nosiness.
Unless you knew what was out there, and you were like, "Wait, I'm gonna stay in here because if I don't go out there,
this is a legal show. We're not getting into these theories.
Sorry.
We'll just bring it back.
I know. I'll let that my own podcast. Well, I'm gonna start a new podcast.
Again, the sad thing is that Officer John O'Keefe was, from all accounts that I've seen, a great person, a public servant, police officer. It took in, the children that he didn't have to. Mm-hmm. Great person. I mean, maybe he likes to party a little bit when
makes
he has
it even better.
Yeah,
makes him a better
knocks
person.
Knocks him up a couple notches for me.
Those children that he was raising, his mother, father, family, those people. It's sad because it's very unlikely that there's ever going to be really any justice for who caused this death. Whether it was an accident or whether it was some type of a murder, because there's not going to be a push to further investigate this.
And the family's never going to believe whatever they believe now. They're never going to not believe that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if they believe Karen Reed did it, they're always going to believe that. If they believe that the Alberts did it or whoever did it, that's what they're going to believe. Well, nobody's ever going to present anything that's going to change their minds.
And because the investigation was tainted,
right? So
that taint goes both ways.
Yep.
Or at least it has the appearance of being tainted.
And I think you said this in a previous show where you were like, well, it doesn't matter if they wanted to investigate another possible suspect of his, death.
Yeah.
Well, they have no evidence. All the evidence they could have had has been either not collected properly or has been destroyed in some way.
And as a defense attorney, for whoever gets accused of it next, you've got,
mountains,
weeks and weeks and weeks of evidence, transcripts, and, obviously the entire trial was televised that you don't even need a transcript. You can just play the video things of, they said Karen Reed did it. 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 Here's a closing argument. They said Karen Reed did it. Here's another closing argument. They said Karen Reed did it.
That might be my case. That might be my entire case. I might not call any witnesses. I'll just open with 5 days of just videos of them saying Karen Reed did it, and then I'll present my client. And then just make your decision. That's not Karen Reed.
I would like to present the 6,947 pages from the transcript, as well as these videos.
Yeah.
Tender those into evidence.
Arrest.
Jury, have fun watching those for the next 5 months, and we'll have closing statements in about 5 months.
Arrest.
No, that's the thing. It's just
It's impossible.
how you could go through all that, and then, which means there's little incentive for them to actually investigate it.
Yep.
Because even if investigating it turns into something, it's very unlikely that they're going to charge somebody and be successful in prosecuting somebody, which is sad for Officer John O'Keefe and his family, because, we may never know what actually happened.
Yeah. You just mentioned Proctor, and he was among also the other, he's also doing interviews. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
That joker needs to disappear.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about this at lunch too. Karen, you need to move, because those people, I wouldn't trust none of them fools live in that city with you. But also, Officer Proctor, what are you doing?
Yeah,
you just look like you're trying to you're trying to go and be interviewed by people who are asking you so you thought it was okay to send these types of text messages about this one. He looks. It doesn't matter what you say. The interviewer is already making you sound horrible.
Trial lawyers speak. He's well past rehabilitation.
Yeah.
And there is no bringing that back.
Quite frankly,
let's let that lay.
I'm going to let the audience and you guys go ahead and just look up some recent Proctor interviews, and you can tell that homeboy, his firing has not treated him so well. He looks rough.
Yeah.
He looks rough, which is not surprising.
I was just thankful when we got the verdict in, and I could stop having to try and watch and keep up with this.
Look, cheers to this. This is the end of our last Karen Reed
and we
case.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Farewell.